Hello, I'm Svitek, 360 Creative Coach. In this episode, I want to discuss a term called expert fallacy. What it is, what it means, and how it's applicable in your life. Now, before I get into things, I would like to take the opportunity to invite you to subscribe if you haven't already done so. That way you get all the various episodes that I put out right when I put them out. Thank you if you just did, and also thank you if you already were. It does truly mean a lot to me, as I hope it does to you. So, the term expert fallacy, it kind of has, it can be viewed from different angles, but the way I consider it is the notion that if when someone thinks and knows that they are smart in one area, well, then they start to apply that logic that they're an expert to other areas, when in fact they are not. So meaning, I myself am a really good filmmaker, right? Let's just say that. Now, I am smart and sure, I can learn other subjects, right? But it is a fallacy for me to assume that I am now an expert in the medical field or nutrition field or exercise field or space exploration field and so forth. Doesn't, like I said, it doesn't mean I can't learn those things and can't become an expert in those things. But I have to understand, just because I'm an expert in one field does not mean I am automatically an expert in another. Yes, I am smart and can work, but that's what I must do to become an expert. And the reason why it's called the expert fallacy is because there are people who then translate that, right? The notion that if I'm an expert in one field, then of course I'm an expert in all other fields because of course I'm smart. And you might maybe think this is like, okay, how much of this applies to everyday life? And you'd be surprised, especially like look on social media and so forth. Everyone considers themselves, an expert on the pandemic, let's say, an expert in politics, let's say, just to kind of be, top of, on the nose about certain things, but it applies to all areas. There's people who are, say, marketing experts and then are all of a sudden telling the filmmakers how to make their film or something like that, right? I mean, you could take this any number of ways. And it's like, okay, that's just not the case. And so number one, it's recognizing for yourself. Have there been times where you overstep your boundaries in that sense and pretend to be an expert in something you're not? And certainly, me posting about X, Y, and Z about, let's say, the pandemic or just kind of politics in general, I'm no expert, right? Of course, I'm entitled to an opinion, things like that, but sometimes, I think part of it is understanding for ourselves intention, right? So just because I can say anything and can have an opinion about anything, does that mean what I have to say really adds any sort of value to the world? So sometimes I like to reserve my opinion and really kind of assess and listen and just say, hey, this is my opinion based on the things that I've read. I'm certainly no expert. You're welcome to, and that's why I try to, as much as I can, say where I get things so that way people can dig deeper for themselves, Now, on the flip side, you might be more on the receiving end of a lot of this, especially like I notice in the work environments, everyone pretends to be an expert in it, and no one's ever wrong. And of course, that can be frustrating, especially when these are your bosses or things like that. Luckily, I'm not someone that deals with this, but I know from a lot of my friends, this is something that they've complained to me about. And it's one of those things like, you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. You have to kind of go about it. And sometimes, there's a polite way to, say to the effect of like, you hired me because this is the aspect that I know. And so, that's why I think, we should go with this versus, you don't want to belittle them. And this applies even beyond just the work environment, right? You never want to make anyone feel stupid, but it's like, hey, just because you don't know this particular thing doesn't make you stupid. You just don't know about this particularly. And conversely, I happen to be an expert in that, if that happens to be it, right? And it's kind of a way of saying that we should normalize the idea that we don't know everything, right? And practice a little bit of humility. That's really what this kind of idea comes down to. But God forbid, we've created like this culture where God forbid we don't know something. Hence why we now live in a culture of expert fallacy, everywhere. Not literally, but to a large extent. And so I think how we combat that is taking personal responsibility for the things we are experts in and not claiming to be experts in the things we are not. And conversely, just gently pointing out when someone is overstepping the boundaries of what they know versus what they don't. And I think that's how we kind of work towards this goal of, just really authenticity, for lack of a better term. So, anyway, I hope this episode, this notion is beneficial to you. If you have any questions or thoughts of your own, by all means, please share, please ask. I am happy to converse with you. If you think this episode might be beneficial to somebody in your life, then by all means, please share it with them. I certainly would appreciate it. And I appreciate you. I hope to see you next time.